Welcome to Head to Dead, where we take two similar horror movies, compare them, to find out who comes out ahead and who winds up dead. I'm Madge, with special guest,
Heretical.
and this week we're tackling Zombieland versus
Shaun of the Dead.
Let's get into it. Let's get started with Shaun of the Dead. The movie follows Shaun and his best friend Ed as they cope with the zombie apocalypse in an attempt to save Shaun's girlfriend Liz and mother Barbara. So, my beautiful guest star, what are your thoughts on Shaun of the Dead?
I thought Shaun of the Dead was a great film. The fact that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost play off of each other so well, all throughout the movie, there was very awesome comedic timings.
Yeah.
And the fact that some of the jokes go on from the beginning of the film all the way to the end of the film.
Like running jokes? Yeah.
So there's a lot of inside jokes that are playing off of each other in the film.
You bringing up the comedy reminds me that there's also a lot of layers in the movie. There's some things that you're going to get on your first watch, but you'll notice the more you watch the movie, there's things you miss. Like there's a lot of background jokes and references that they make that aren't in the open, but the more you watch the movie, the more you find them, and I appreciate that because it's one of those rare movies that's really good for rewatch.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone throughout life quoting this movie. Like, every time I touch my phone, I just 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
I use the I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing. I'm always messing with my wife, and every time I say that, as many times as I get the opportunity.
Yeah, and then like the makeup alone, you can tell that they worked really hard on the makeup. And
I did detect a few inconsistencies in the makeup, but it wasn't a big deal because it was usually in the big scenes near the end of the movie. The background actors kind of started to skimp a little bit, but I'm not going to count that against the movie. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
And you can tell like that they worked really hard on it. The movie, even though it didn't last very long, I appreciate that it wasn't an ongoing long movie.
It didn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
And it didn't take itself too seriously, and it wasn't pretentious.
Exactly.
And you could tell that it was a real passion project between everyone that was working on it. They wanted to be there, and that really shines through in the film.
Exactly. I actually know that there a lot of the zombies that were involved were actually volunteers.
I didn't know that. That's an interesting thought. Yeah. All around great movie.
Let's move on to Zombieland. After a virus turns most of the population into zombies, 4 unlikely survivors travel cross-country to Los Angeles for a rumored safe haven. Alright, Adge, let me pick your brain about Zombieland.
Okay, so, Zombieland. Before this, I hadn't watched it in a really long time. And when it came up for rewatch, I was kind of gutted. I didn't want to watch it again. I didn't remember much. That being said, when I did rewatch it, I gotta say I was completely wrong because I thought it was so fun. I loved this. This was such an interesting take on like the road trip movie.
And how do you feel about like the graphics coming across the screen?
Like with the rules and stuff? You know, I thought that was kind of tacky, but then I had to remember that this movie came out a while back, and I put myself in that headspace, and I'm able to give it a pass. For my liking, though, still kind of a little silly.
Yeah, but some of my favorite parts, especially like with Bill Murray coming up,
that's probably what saved the movie most for me was
him faking that he was a zombie the whole time.
Listen, I knew what was going to happen, but I still laughed so hard when he.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He just shoots him right in the chest, and he says, "That's still a little tender."
Who acts like a zombie in the middle of a zombie apocalypse?
That's a good idea if there's no people around.
I guess that's true. But what about the zombie kill of the week? Like, I like the zombie kill of the week because it takes us out of the main story and shows us that there's other people in the world that are actually fighting back.
I thought that was a really creative thing to do too, because it is having only a few characters. It is such a intimate movie, and it was nice to be able to pull out a little bit and see how other people are handling this. I will say where I think the movie failed me was the end. We know when they get to the amusement park, I think it was completely ridiculous for them to turn on all those, like the switches and stuff. That's the only thing that really took me out of the movie. I thought that was ridiculous.
But it was good that they all had their separate agendas.
No, yeah, that was so cool to see how all the characters in the movie did have their own reason for doing the things they do. Hey, there's only one thing left to do. Figure out which movie you think is better.
Well, me personally, I think Shaun of the Dead was a better movie.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think it was better because the jokes in general were funnier. They took more time to do their makeup. It was a smaller film. that you could tell that they loved more because it wasn't a high budget film. They put more love into it. Like I said, the jokes. So when the jokes came around, they were personal. You could tell that they were inside jokes running throughout the whole film.
Mhm.
So they wanted you to pay attention to the film. Otherwise, at the end, whenever they made those jokes, you wouldn't know where those jokes came from.
That's true. It is a movie that demands to be actually watched and not just put on in the background.
But also, I feel like it has more love in there because it's more than just a zombie film. It's about a man trying to prove to his friends and family
His inadequacies.
that he is better than what they are putting him up to.
Yes, and I feel like there's a lot of people who can, in a sense, relate to that feeling of
Exactly.
incompetence and trying to prove that they're more than the sum of their parts.
Exactly, like his whole time, he just was being talked down on.
Right. Okay. This is. I think I might have actually enjoyed Zombieland more. I'll say this with a caveat though. I think a lot of it is because I have seen Shaun of the Dead so many times. And when I rewatched Zombieland, I was rewatching it with a more fresh take. It's been so long since I watched it. And I think because I remember it so poorly, and I had watched it again and I thought it was so good, I feel that if I'm being honest with myself, it has a nudge ahead. That's not saying I don't like Shaun of the Dead. It's
You just watched it so many times that it's played out, kind of.
right. It's one of those things where I just know it, from A to B. And I think I was kind of getting that surprise again, because there was parts of watching Zombieland I didn't remember happening, and I totally forgot about the first part where he totally bricks the girl on the head with the toilet seat cover. I forgot all about that. So rewatching it, I have to give it to Zombieland on this one.
You know what? I can respect that because, like you said, if you watch something so many times, it kind of loses its value a little bit. It's kind of like, well, I've seen everything there is to see in it, you know?
So mine's kind of a cop-out because I'm going to say that I think that Shaun of the Dead is a better movie traditionally, but for my personal opinion, this time around, I did enjoy Zombie.
Both movies were great. That's what we do know. So, fine films.
Yeah, okay, well, I don't even think we agree to disagree. I think we just have kind of a different opinion.
You've heard from us. Now we want to hear from you. Tell us what movie came out on top for you down in the comments. Also, what movie would you like to see next? Next week we have
Friday Night versus
The Lost Boys.